Good evening, guys. Welcome back to my channel. This is Coach DC from All 22 Films. Tonight, I've got a look at Tyrese Knight, who played a whale of a football game in the Seahawks' Week 1 loss to the Cowboys. I know it was a disappointing performance overall for the whole team. Mike McDonald kind of said as much in his post-game press conferences. I've got 9 plays queued up here to just talk about what Knight did, making, I think, 10 tackles, 7 solos, 2 PDs across only 26 or maybe 27 snaps. So this first one is a third down, and he's lined up as an edge defender. You've got this zero look from a Seahawks standpoint, with both inside linebackers walked up, and then they're both going to drop. This is, of course, one of his 2 PDs. It's a great play, in my opinion, in coverage, making contact with the receiver, and then able to keep his eyes back to the quarterback for a moment. I love what Seattle does, obviously, on defense. I think everyone does, myself in particular. Clearly, being a Ravens fan and covering the Ravens, for so many years. Mike McDonald moves on to Seattle, seeing what he can do with players like a Drake Thomas, or in this case, a Tyrese Knight. Tyrese Knight had 88 tackles or 85 tackles in 2024. Injuries last year. He did have the one amazing game, forcing 2 turnovers that DeMarcus Lawrence took both of them back to the house for touchdowns. This game hints at what he could be. It's really filthy how much talent the Seahawks have on defense. In this case now, you've got Drake Thomas, Tyrese Knight, young player entering his 3rd year, who can compete for time out there at the will linebacker position. That was, of course, a third down that ended the first possession for the Cowboys. We're into the second drive. This one's a long one. I think 16 plays, ends in a field goal. Focus on Tyrese Knight a ton. First, quick reads and reactions, instant recognition of the play concept. In this case, it's a duo. Almost looks like a read from the quarterback. We're talking about the only difference is that the edge defender is being blocked by the tight end. So, there is no read out here unless he's reading something off screen. I think he's just making it look like it. But as far as Tyrese Knight goes, you can see him kind of peek through here. Just got enough of an angle to see the running back veer back to this open B gap, make first contact. Like I said, 10 tackles, 7 solos, including, I believe, 7 or maybe 8 tackles on this drive alone. There's always so much going on a Seahawks defensive snap, or so many of them at least. This is a 1st and 10 on that second possession. Knight's going to be unblocked. There is some disruption that occurs here. I think that might be Peely 95 as far as him getting upfield and disrupting the blocking scheme. I would consider this F counter. I'll give you the end zone angle. And look, Tyrese Knight is totally unblocked here, okay? But great recognition. I feel like in this game, when I'm watching him, he's staying square. It just looks so natural to see him play in this game, whether he's unblocked or not. There's just multiple great examples of how to be an inside linebacker, in particular, a will linebacker set into the boundary. Seattle, as we know, bases out of a 2-high structure. They want to be able to stop the run with their front 6. In this case, they're trying to add the boundary side corner as a blitzer. I'll show you another example of that later. It's maybe a little bit more strategic. This is a 1st and 10, 11 personnel. So, why in the heck are they bringing the boundary side corner? Just because Mike McDonald feels like it? Number one, no. It's because they have some kind of tell or information about what's getting ready to happen. Here's the disruption. This is the same play, by the way. Here's the disruptive nature of 95, what he does. They're running an F counter play, so the right guard is going to pull. That's illustrated by the yellow line there, and the tight end is going to follow. What should happen is the tight end should lead up on the boundary side inside linebacker, or the play side inside linebacker. I refer to it as F counter. Multiple names for what it could be. Here's the corner that's coming off the edge, trying to disrupt the whole thing, and that's what allows this edge defender here to play this so tight, is because he knows he's got help there. The tight end is never, he's got help to his outside there, excuse me. The tight end is never able to get to Tyrese Knight because everything is messed up here from a blocking standpoint for Dallas. They're trying to back block with the center and then hinge with the backside tackle. In this case, I think that D-tackle 95 really disrupts everything and pushes the right tackle back into the tight end. That's why Tyrese Knight ends up being unblocked here. They still count, right? Even though it's an unblocked tackle, you've got to stay square. You got to fit in the correct gap. And in this case, at least the other night, Week 1 of the preseason, I know things didn't work out perfect from a Seattle standpoint, but Tyrese Knight looked like an NFL starter to me. Now, when I say that, I'm not advocating for him to be the starter over Drake Thomas. I just think it's a great situation to be in for Seattle when you have two guys who can start at the will linebacker. They can both defend the run. And, if you go by this film against the Cowboys, Tyrese Knight played really well in coverage. This is a trap concept from a Dallas standpoint. Again, they're back blocking on the defensive tackle. The play side guard's going to work up to the backside inside linebacker. Don't ask me what the left tackle does here. If it's supposed to be trapped, they're trying to trap Riley Mills. Riley Mills did not have much as far as statistical production in this game. 3 times where he's extremely disruptive, in my opinion. This happens to be one of them. I have no idea what the tackle is trying to do. Perhaps sometimes you try to pass set and draw or elicit this this defensive end, edge defender upfield, and then they trap the defensive tackle. If that's the case, 71 is super slow out of his stance here, if you ask me. It's a great read by Tyrese Knight nonetheless. Instantaneous reaction and recognition. Trigg, the rookie tight end from Baylor, number 46, is trying to get to Knight and block him in this direction so that the downhill run concept or the lane develops for Blue. He's unable to do so because of Tyrese Knight's quick reactions and commitment to getting downhill. I'll show you the all-22 angle of this one. It's a too-high safety structure. Some layers here that I'll try to uncover or peel back a little bit. So first, this is the number 1 receiver right now into the boundary. There's only one receiver. And in fact, it's Trigg. This is the same play the trap played, but Jonathan Mingo, who had a couple of third down conversions here in the first half from a receiving standpoint, he motions across. This is now number 2. So what they've done is they've widened Tyrese Knight up. But intelligently, he stayed with the correct leverage, meaning he stayed inside leverage of number 2 because he knows where the safety is. Tyrese Knight never had to look as far as, okay, should I widen up so much that I get wider than Trigg? And that works out perfectly for this concept. It's a trap concept designed to hit downhill. Again, the whole thing is muddied or messed up because the right guard trying to trap Riley Mills is blocking, has the left tackle who's also blocking the trap man. You never do that. You never block the guy that's going to be trapped. You might fake like you're going to block him to influence him or encourage him to widen up. This is a quick read by Tyrese Knight. Yes, he's, quote, unblocked. There is a player here, however, assigned to block him. It happens to be Trigg, the rookie tight end, who just never gets there. Okay, we're a couple of snaps later, 3rd and 8 again on that second and drive. That'll culminate the first quarter and then bridge its way into the second, and Dallas ends up getting a field goal. Like I said, 3rd and 8, Tyrese Knight lined up at the top side of the screen, into the boundary, the short side of the field, and Seattle's going to morph this look into what I would consider to be a Tampa 2. So the Mike backer here, going to get depth in the middle of the field. These two safeties are going to split. Now, the bottom side safety, that angle that I'm drawing is not exactly accurate. I'm talking about this line here that you guys kind of lose perspective of. From the standpoint of Tyrese Knight, it's, again, the quick reactions, the ability to see the quarterback, but react to the route. You kind of lose perspective of him here the first time through. I will show this a couple of times, number 1, to let you guys see it. It is Jonathan Mingo winning into the boundary, and then Tyrese Knight will make the tackle. Again, bear with me here. You'll gain some perspective on Tyrese Knight's awareness and recognition here in a moment, the second time through. So Mingo is the top side, the outside receiver. Trigg is the number 2, the tight end, which is where he belongs. Typically 11 personnel groups. The tight end is the number 2 receiver into the boundary. But in any case, there's the route combinations that we get. Trigg is going to basically go a slant-ish type route, and then Mingo kind of a shake slant, physical work, if you ask me. Look at the recognition of Tyrese Knight. He's playing Trigg in a zone delineation, don't get me wrong, and then as soon as the ball is thrown, or just after it's thrown, forgive me for that, he's able to react and get in there and tackle Mingo after the missed tackle. I know that, had a ton of trouble at corner here in this game. In particular, one guy in particular, I'm not focusing on that. I'm talking about Tyrese Knight and his ability to display great range. Yes, it's into the boundary where there's less space. At any level of football, the NFL has more space into the boundary than college or even high school. But great range displayed by Tyrese Knight throughout, his 26 snaps, if you ask me. Again, I'm focusing on Tyrese Knight. I've actually already pre-recorded a video on Bud Clark. Hope might be out tonight if I feel like releasing it, or perhaps into Tuesday. In any case, this is just, it's what makes it so much fun to watch Seattle's defense. It's a 21 personnel group from a Cowboys standpoint. You got a fullback and a tight end here, and they're running a lead concept into the boundary. Seattle consistently against 21 personnel. Of course, they stay with their base nickel defense, but they move guys around, they shift. In this case, I call this a nickel 4-3. So you can see the 4-3 structure, whereby you've got Knight, I think it's O'Connell, 52, and then Hill, 23, or Bell, 23, excuse me. They're creating the 3 second-level defenders, hence why I chose to use the phrase 4-3 structure. So the right tackle stepping to the edge defender here, basically a base block, trying to expand him as much as possible. Fullback is supposed to lead up on Tyrese Knight, but someone shows up. It's the boundary side corner. I'll give you the all 22 angle so you can see it yourself. The wide receiver, just no chance to get to the corner, the DB, right? Because the receiver can't move. He's the X receiver. He's lined up on the line of scrimmage, so he can't motion. The corner can move or hedge down inside when he knows he's going to blitz. It's a fantastic call against 21 personnel, in my opinion. That's the corner disrupting things. Knight ends up being the beneficiary because he finishes off the tackle. As you can see right there, like I said, 7 or maybe 8 tackles on this drive alone. All 22 angle of the same play. I try to spot shadow, or excuse me, put a nameplate above Knight in each case. Here's what I'm talking about. You've got the fullback and tight end, which again is Trig, and they're matched up, or Seattle is matching with their nickel personnel, but they've got a 4-3 structure that's being deployed out of it. We're talking about everything inside of this shape here. Knight is the will linebacker. The nickel is technically the Sam. That's why a lot of people refer to the nickel in a 4-2-5 as the nickel Sam, but they're making it look like a 4-3 from a configuration standpoint. Boundary side corner is blitzing, but he's not blitzing off the edge. He's going B-gap. He's going inside the B-gap. This is so ballsy from a Seahawks perspective because they're not taking... There's another safety up here that you guys can't see because I have this zoomed in a little bit. There's no one rotating over here. So, my suspicion is that maybe Seattle actually wanted a safety to rotate over, or maybe they were just selling out to stop the run on a 1st and 10 here. There's the corner that blitzed and got in here and disrupted the play. That fullback is supposed to lead up on the will linebacker, Tyrese Knight. In this case, you can see there's a collision happening here. First contact from the boundary side corner. It's a badass call. Can you imagine being an offensive coordinator? I mean, you're dealing with Mike McDonald, but can you imagine being an offensive coordinator calling lead zone concept to the weak side into the boundary, and they're matching your 21 personnel with nickel, and lo and behold, they bring the boundary side corner. It's got to be frustrating or maddening to go against, guys like McDonald, Jesse Minter. I would put Brian Flores in the same mold, even though, he doesn't oftentimes get the same credit. I think nationally, in my opinion, he probably should. Let's keep this going here. We're on the same drive, that second possession that culminates in a field goal. I think I misspoke a little bit earlier. It is apparently Knight's 8th tackle on this drive alone. He's the will linebacker set into the boundary, the top side of that blue line. If you're unaware, I always put a blue line there to illustrate the boundary. So this is the field, or the bottom, or the wide side, everything below that blue line. This is the boundary or the short side of the field. Yes, the hashes are only 18 feet 6 inches apart or something like that. Maybe it's actually 18 feet flat. This is a spectacular play into the boundary against a running back screen, number one. Number two, I think the Cowboys offensive line does a really poor job of getting this done. It's typical for the play side tackle to pass set and draw the edge defender upfield. That makes sense. What's not typical is for neither of these interior offensive linemen to get to the second level, and Tyrese Knight takes advantage. Again, I think you're talking about a starting caliber inside linebacker at the NFL level being allowed to be unblocked at the point of attack. In this case, it's a boundary side screen. It's a violent hit. You don't necessarily get a perspective of that from the all-22 angle. You will hear from the end zone angle. Again, you're talking about a pass set by the right tackle on Morris, who I think plays this quite well from a recognition standpoint. Normally, some of these guys, the two guards or the center, is going to release and then go encourage or influence block on the second level defenders. In this case, we're talking about Tyrese Knight, and try to get him. Oftentimes those blocks will occur and they'll push the will linebacker this way such that the running back will be able to kind of cut it back. Maybe those two lines are not accurate as far as where the running back goes here, but it's the idea conceptually is what I'm talking about. That doesn't happen, right? Neither one of those linemen get up to the second level. You lose some perspective of Jaden Blue because I'm magnifying or zooming in there, but it's a very violent, strong hit from Tyrese Knight. If this were a regular season game and he played this well, you'd be talking about a guy who, didn't make any splash plays in terms of interceptions, fumble recoveries, or sacks or anything like that. But this is, to me, player of the week caliber play for your defense, for your Seattle Seahawks defense. I didn't see anybody else. Riley Mills really disruptive. Bud Clark was a fun watch. 41, 42 snaps, somewhere in that range. Only 3 tackles, but deployed in a whole lot of different ways. Tyrese Knight, if you ask me, was the show on the defensive side of the football. Another 21 personnel group. I'm actually going to do a standalone video on Seattle's answers to 21 personnel in the first half of this game and just try to reveal the multitude of looks that McDonald has at his disposal and the players can execute on the field. Here, this one, what they're going to do is blitz Bell 23 off the top side edge, the field side. He's the nickel. And then walk, Bud Clark up to replace him. It's a 5-man rush scheme and a zone blitz coverage concept. So 3 deep, 3 under is what I refer to as a zone blitz. Tyrese Knight is the boundary side inside linebacker, the will. And he's getting this route crossing in front of his face from Trigg, who's set up as the inline tight end right here to the field, and he's going to run across the formation. This is easy for Tyrese Knight, don't get me wrong, or simple. He's dropping off in zone in a 3 deep, 3 under, looking for some kind of work, and he gets it. It's a very violent hit on Trigg that breaks up any attempt to catch the football. Yeah, maybe the ball was coming out already or being bobbled from a Trigg perspective. It's still a great reaction. I believe he gets credit for a second PD on this play in particular. Tyrese Knight played a whale of a football game. I've got one more snap to show you. Again, I pre-recorded something on Bud Clark. He didn't have, as many tackles, as much impact. Those 2 guys were the most fun to watch here, as well as Riley Mills. Again, I have to stress this. The statistical production wasn't there in this game, but very disruptive a handful of times against the Cowboys. 1st and 10 here. I think we're into the 4th possession. Really nice coverage snap. Again, matched up with Trigg into the boundary. It's a twin slot formation, so twin, and then Trigg is the slot into the boundary with the running back in the backfield opposite the tight end. So I would call this twin slot B. B means the running back is away from the tight end. A would mean that the running back was on the same side. This is a great reaction from Knight. I can just see Drake Thomas making the same play. Is he as good in coverage as Drake Thomas? Look, a year ago at this time, if I had sat here and did a video on Drake Thomas and said he's going to be your starting linebacker in the Super Bowl, well, let's do it this way. Your starting linebacker all season from a will linebacker standpoint, and he's going to perform exceptionally well with the exclusion of, maybe one game where I thought Drake Thomas's reads and reactions were a little bit slower or inconsistent, you wouldn't have believed me. Here we have a guy who produced in 2024 as a rookie, did have 2 sacks last year. Again, the 2 turnover forced game where DeMarcus Lawrence was able to take both of those situations back to the house, fumble recovery, This is a great job in coverage. In the structure of Seattle's defense, the will linebacker is stressed consistently by playing man on 2. Sometimes 2 is a running back, sometimes like this, 2 is a tight end. So what I'm talking about is the numbering system that everybody uses to designate receivers. This is the number 1 receiver into the boundary. You start counting from outside in. This is number 2. Down here to the bottom side, obviously these guys are stacked, so they're muddying that up a little bit. Technically, this will be number 1, and this will be number 2, but the releases could change how they are defended. The point is, Seattle plays so much man into the boundary with the boundary side corner that means the boundary side will, by definition, has to play man as well. Here's the boundary side corner playing man on number 1, going vertical. Look at these reactions from everyone else. I'm talking about these 5 defenders here. They're all playing zone. Up to the top side, Tyrese Knight and the boundary side corner, they're playing man. Now, there's nothing revolutionary about that. A ton of people do it across the NFL and all levels of football. The point is, you've got to be able to do this effectively against tight ends, running backs, sometimes slot receivers. The zone-based structure of McDonald's defense at times can help protect those guys. You would check to a zone if, instead of Trigg being the number 2 receiver, if it was a Jamar Chase, right? If it was Jefferson from the Vikings or someone like that. The whole point is the system is set up to play a lot of man into the boundary and then zone stuff to the field. Those are all zone reactions with eyes either on the route or on the quarterback. Zone turn with his back or butt to the sideline. Tyrese Knight can do this in the preseason and show off. The idea or the question, I guess, is, are you going to get the same consistency, the same level of production if he starts all 17 games? I think it's a wonderful situation to be able to have 2 of these guys between him and Drake Thomas. Drake Thomas was a revelation, I guess, maybe some would say a little bit of a throw-in. That trade from the Raiders, fortuitous for Seattle because he was a stabilizing force. Some of his pass drops, his ability to expand and force number 2 to take an elongated path, perhaps pushing the route further out towards the sideline or sometimes further in, but generally forcing it further out. Drake Thomas has some real subtlety in his coverage in zone, underrated in man. Him and Tyrese Knight, I hope they're battling every day, and I hope they're forcing each other to be better in drills. And in situations like this in the preseason where Thomas doesn't play, Tyrese Knight is on the field a ton. In the first half, at least, like I said, 26 snaps, 10 tackles, 7 solo, 2 PDs. I think just instant respect for Tyrese Knight's game if you didn't have it already. Maybe my film work here and the way that I've explained it hasn't done that justice. Go find the film and watch the raw film yourself. I try to distill it down here for you or slice it up in a manner that you can see it as efficiently as possible. Granted, a 21, 22, 23-minute video might be too long for some people. I loved making this video about Tyrese Knight. There's so many players across the NFL that I would enjoy trying to highlight what they do, either a one-time data point like this as far as Tyrese Knight, or over the course of the season. Really reminds me of Josh Jobe and Drake Thomas a year ago. Those types of players are thriving in Seattle. It's not just because of Mike Macdonald. I think the structure there, the culture, the way that things are run within the organization, but also the players' respect for each other. I will have something out about Terrion Arnold. I know Seattle signed him. There's some other variables there, of course, with his a court case is in the future lining up and how available he will be. A guy who spent time obviously in Detroit as a first-round pick. The Lions are another team that I cover, in case you don't know. And so I spent some time making Terrion Arnold videos over the last 2+ years. I do have them on my channel if you'd be willing to go check them out, or if you'd be interested, in checking them out. In any case, if you enjoyed this video about Tyrese Knight in an otherwise game that was tough to enjoy from a Seattle Seahawks perspective, I've watched the whole thing at this point. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments section. I produce videos all the time, and sometimes 4,000, 5,000 views, and I only get like a couple hundred likes. Please like the video. If you listen this long, you should be anyway. And then if you think other Seahawks fans would like to hear my thoughts on Tyrese Knight, as well as the plays that I illustrate I use to illustrate those thoughts, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media, so other Seahawks fans can enjoy it as well. Appreciate you guys' time.